After 5 months traveling with this Scrubba washback thing, I'm finally ready to give you my opinion about it. Is it worth it? Should you get it? Does it work at all? I'm going to talk about it all. The first thing I will say though is that it is a very cool little contraption here that they have made. It is essentially just a dry bag that they've added some cool features to, like a little valve so you can let out some air. I can show you how to use it afterwards. I guess the genius part of this dry bag modification is that they've added a little board inside here that you can use to agitate the clothes. So when you fill this thing with water and you put the clothes inside, and you can essentially just agitate them. Also, what I really like about this thing is that underneath they've added like this little anti-slide pad. That's very clever. This is the bigger version of the bag. They have another one now too. I saw that is probably half the size of this. I do think if I were to buy this again, I would go with a smaller one, because if you can see here, when you roll it up, it is still quite big. Like, yeah, very big. You can kind of clasp it together. But if you have seen how I travel, this is a lot of room. Of course, you can squeeze it together further if you really want to, but then there is the problem, will it tear or something? I mean, I've been abusing this thing quite heavily. I just tossed it in the bag and it hasn't broken yet. If you know dry bags, they can handle quite a bit of abuse before they tear, essentially. I will say though that this has been quite handy to have, especially compared to washing it in the sink someplace. To be honest with you, sometimes I still just use the sink, because when you use it, you can wash essentially 4 socks and 2 t-shirts and 2 pairs of underwear at a time. And that's going to take about 5 minutes, or so they recommend. I think I can do it faster in the sink. If the sink is clean, it has been easier to just wait 1 or 2 more days and wash all of my clothes at once in the sink, compared to using this thing. Also, another thing with this is that once you're done using it, I don't think many people think about this, but this is still wet when you're done using it. So you will have to pat this down, or it's going to be wet inside your bag, which is not very nice. And sometimes it's been a problem to find somewhere to dry it. I usually just place it on a bottle or something upside down like this, and it's usually dry. Let all the water drip out over a day or something like that. Beyond that, I would say that it is quite expensive. I think I paid like $50 or something like that for this thing, and I think I could get a dry bag for less than half of that, no problem. So is it worth it? Kind of have to decide yourself. Let me just fill this thing with water quickly, and I'm going to show you how to use it too. All right, so I filled the thing with water here. So what I wanted to show you here before we start washing is that this is the big version, so you can wash 2 sets of clothes here. I think the smaller ones you can just wash 1 set, pretty much. Here on the side we can see how much water. I think you fill like 3 liters a time, or I think that's 3/4 of a gallon or something around those lines. Yeah, that's all the clothes you can wash at once with this thing here. It has been very nice to have in dirty hotels. Like, we were in India for a month, traveling like the cheapest hotels, and I will say I used this quite a lot in India instead of the sink. So for those situations, it's great. I can imagine for camping as well, like if you're out in the woods over a longer period of time, this will be very useful as well. So let me just roll it up. I like to just take out all the air first of it, or as much as I can, to make this process faster, and then we just roll it down, clips it together like that, and we can lay it down. So here's where that valve is quite genius, because as you can see, there is still some air bubbles in here. So just opening this here and kind of squeezing while holding that valve upwards, you can get rid of most of the air that is in the bag. But just be careful, if you squeeze really hard, it's going to squirt water all over, and it's going to be messy, especially if it's like a dirty hotel or something. This thing is kind of wet, and the ground is kind of dirty. You're going to get grime all over the wash bag, and then you have to wash the bag itself, and then you have to go to the sink to wash it, and yeah, it's just a horrible mess. You can use detergent in it if you have it available. There is something called the Dr. Bronner soap that I've been experimenting with quite a bit in the past. But to be honest with you, I can't believe I'm saying this on my channel where I have washing tutorials too, but sometimes I just use soap, because it is quite a hassle to drag detergent with you halfway around the world, and then you have the little bags for it. Sometimes it leaks, and yeah, it just takes up space. So sometimes I just found it easier to just use some soap or like shampoo or whatever to wash the clothes there. So I just added a little bit of that for this demonstration, but ideally detergent works best. From here it's essentially just to wash the clothes like you normally would. If you have six-packs, if you have a six-pack abs, you can use that too instead, I guess, of the Washback. Sadly, I don't at the moment. So here you can see in progress. If this was a regular dry bag and I did this, it would start sliding over the table. But since this thing has that anti-slide thing at the bottom, I really like that about this. The agitation side of the board is also cool. I don't think that is the most important thing, because you kind of agitate the clothes with your hands and them rubbing against each other anyway. But it is a cool addition, I think. So what you do is essentially just do this for 3 minutes. I found a pretty cool hack that you can use your feet too. So if you're on the laptop, you can just sit like this, and with your feet you can wash your clothes. It's quite interesting. Like I said, I used this mostly in India, and after washing the clothes, the water was just dark gray. It was quite nasty. Here comes the next step of this process, and this is what kind of annoys me and makes me prefer to do the sink, because at this stage we have to empty the bag and we have to refill it with water. And unless you're very good at emptying it from water, there is going to spill some water over the bag. And that is kind of annoying because it gets slippery, and like I said, if it's not the cleanest place you're staying at, you are going to end up making the bag dirty this way. So let me just change the water here. How I usually do it is just stand it back up. These ones open, lift it up and turn it to the side and empty it from water. And here we just do the same process again, essentially just rinse out the remainder of the soap in our circumstance, or detergent. I did remember one thing I wanted to note about this bag though, is that it is quite useful to have handy, especially if you have clothes that stains or something like that. If you've seen any of my videos on like white clothes, you can see that I usually spot treat them when they get dirty. And having this bag here available was very useful, because otherwise I would have to spot treat the clothes in the sink, and then the sink wouldn't be available. If you need to wash your hands, or I traveled with my brother, if he wanted to go to the toilet and my clothes were in the sink, that wouldn't be ideal. So having this bag to just pre-treat stains was fantastic as well, I will say. So do I recommend it overall? Yes and no, it depends on your circumstances. I think it's a cool tool. I will say if you're traveling cheap, it is nice to have. Are you better off just taking that $50 and budgeting it out on, for example, spending half on a normal dry bag and keeping the rest to take the clothes to a washery or something, you know, a laundromat? Perhaps. I think that could be argued. Also, just washing it in the sink. It is a cool thing. If you're interested in getting one of these, I'm gonna add a link down below. I would appreciate it if you would use that if you want to buy this thing, because then I get a little commission for my 5 months of traveling just to test this thing. Not just joking. Yeah. Now I took it to India, Thailand, Philippines, and what's it called? Indonesia. And Germany technically as well. And Norway, 6th country. So yeah, it is a cool tool for sure, for sure. One thing you may not have thought about though is that you also need to dry your clothes. That can be a bit of a hassle. I should just hang them all over in the doors and closets, the shower curtain, perfect place to dry clothes as well. If you have those little travel hangers, those are fantastic as well. But again, it takes up space, so whether it's worth it, I don't think so, but yeah, I also have that video on how to dry clothes fast that you can check here next. I'll show you the towel method, how to dry clothes in 2 minutes, which is pretty cool if you ask me. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this strange review. It's good to be back filming for you guys. And yeah, I'll see you over in that video on how to dry clothes in 2 minutes.